Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's System Administrator webinar. We will be covering part management and real-time pricing integrations within WeEstimate. My name is Brandon Vieira, and leading the way today will be Stephen Nasty. After this webinar, you will be able to import part pricing updates to the WeSuite database, manage discontinued parts, and consider use of live integrations for greater part cost accuracy. As always, we want you to get the most out of your time today, so if you have questions at any time throughout the webinar, don't be shy. Even if it's because we've gone too fast and you want to see or hear something again, please let us know in the chat section. We have a lot to get through, so let's get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendan. And hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. So today's webinar has a ton in it. We're going to be jumping around a little bit through a couple different tabs here. Really, the bulk of our time is going to be talking about how to manage your parts interface, your parts database. We're going to be talking about how to kind of go through your inventory, as well as how to load some new parts lists in. And then we're also going to be talking about our integrations. So if you are interested in ADI, Blackleaf, PSA, all of those things are things we're going to discuss today. Some of them I can always show to varying degrees, but I'll kind of give you the functionality of how they work, how they're kind of how they operate, and just the setup and the cost things go along like that, along those lines. So with that being said, I want to kind of just familiarize everybody with what we have in-house first and foremost. So we have two different areas. So first and foremost, we're going to go into our tools menu, and we're going to see we have our part import, and we have parts editor. So I have all these open already, just to save some time. Your parts editor, this is really where you're going to be going to manage your entire list of WeSuite parts. So if you're utilizing WeSuite parts, the little gray gear, this is where all of your parts will reside. They function as a search. So you can do any, if you want to search for a manufacturer, a model number, a keyword in the description, anything you search here will populate. So I just pre-populated camera. And through this interface, we have a ton of different fields that come up. So we have pictures. So something that we have at a baseline, not many people know this, is we have the ability to import pictures. So if you have a picture for a part that you want to integrate into our system, you can. I believe also we have the capability to map this to your document, your proposal as well. So if you are interested in that feature, let us know. Might require some document work to get that configured, but that is available. Other tabs here are listed out. We have discontinue. So if you ever have any parts that you want to discontinue, we have the discontinue column. Part to favorite. The favorite column, if you're utilizing Quote Anywhere, that does carry over to Quote Anywhere as well. And then here we have just some basic lines. We're not going to go through every single column, but all of these are your manufacturers, your descriptions, your model numbers, your dealer list price, unit cost, tax configuration, any kind of relevant cut sheets, things along those lines. And this is your entire database here. So last you'll see like your kind of like your dates. So you'll see when it was updated, when the pricing was first added. So you'll see like this was added in 2017, and then also any associated labor that goes along with them. So one of the questions I had gotten during the week was how do you manage your labor per part? So it really would depend ultimately if you are working with WeSuite or for accounting. For accounting, that have to be done within Sedona, but with WeSuite parts, all of your labor items will be listed out here. So you'll have at a baseline, this is why this is a little long to scroll, but all of these are your labor categories, and you're able to assign however many hours you want to a part. So if you want to assign, let's just say this next part right here, we want to change this to include 5 labor hours. The next time this particular part is added to a job, it'll have 5 installation hours automatically added to that area. Sorry, let me just tab out. I think the screen's a little bit behind. So those 5 hours will now be added in. So that's how you add in associated labor to an item via your parts editor. Kind of going through this list, we have a couple of different things to show here. If you want to add a part one at a time, we do have this new button here not new button's been there for a little bit, but the button that's called new. In that interface, you'll have the ability to typically like how you would add a one-time part. If you're familiar with that, you can simply just add in your information here, and then I'll add it to the system. We have a part import, which I'll go into in a little bit for bulk updates, for bulk importing, bulk discontinuing things along those lines. But if there's ever a situation where you just want to add one part at a time and you just don't want to plug it into an Excel sheet, you can go ahead through the new interface here and go ahead and plug that information in. From this tab, the only other things that I wanted to show are the accounting part setup. So if you are utilizing accounting parts, your entire list will also be live fed through this interface. This is a live stream, but also more of a read-only view. With the integration, there are some limitations where Sedona doesn't allow us to edit their parts within our database. So what this does is this gives you a full view as to what you currently have in their system. So in here, you can take a look at all of your parts, as well as any sort of description that goes along with them, and any sort of associated labor that carries along with them as well. So again, if you want to update your labor, it would have to be done within Sedona. But this interface allows you to have a nice read view of an overarching view how all of your items have their labor and things along those lines. So this is your labor hours, and this is your accounting part view. So Sedona gives you two different views here. So you'll see your labor hours, and if you just want to specifically see, uh, kind of just descriptions and list price and unit costs and things like that, that's listed out here in the accounting part view. Okay. Something also to note with this is we also support associated parts. Associated parts are supported with both accounting and WeSuite parts. And you can do that by simply just right-clicking any of these parts and clicking on Add Associated Items. What an associated part is, it functions like kind of like a mini kit, so to speak, a mini package, where if you were to drag an item over from kind of your parts inventory onto a job in a folder, it'll then carry over a couple of other parts, its associated parts. So think of it as a parent and a child. So for this, we'll just go ahead and just type in, let's see if we have any dome items here. We have a ton, beautiful. So I'll just take this guy right here. I'll drag it over as associated parts. You choose a quantity. So maybe we need 3 of these. And then simply, that's it. So the next time you were to add this parent part to the job, it'll automatically carry over this child part here, this MTM dome counter. So Dario, for your question for that error message, that is that's more internal. That's more of an IT thing. So typically, how that works. So if you are following along, what Dario mentioned is he was going to the accounting part view and he was getting an error message saying that it couldn't connect. If you're getting like a couldn't find server or having issues finding server, most likely it's just an account. It's a database issue. So you can let your IT know that WeSuite can't find the accounting server, and what that'll do is that will then have in your case, Dave would just need to go ahead and grant, read, and write access to the Sedona database. I could always leave him a note, Dario. I've worked with Dave on that before, but it would most likely just be a quick permissions thing. So it's also a webinar. We saw associated parts. Yes, so they will. So Dario's question was, will webinar do associated parts here work with Code Anywhere as well? Yes, they do, but you can't set up associated parts just yet within Code Anywhere. So you can create associated parts in WeEstimate, and they'll carry over to Code Anywhere. It's a great question. Okay. So the kind of continuing with associated parts really, really quickly here is associated parts are supported for both WeSuite and accounting, and you can also mix and match if you want to. So when you're doing associated parts, you'll see that we have an accounting parts icon here. So if you want to link accounting to WeSuite, you can. Or if you want to link WeSuite to accounting, you can do so as well. And the process is basically the same. So if you're looking at this, you're watching this, and you're using strictly just accounting parts, but you like the idea of associated parts, you'd go to the accounting part view, right click, add associated items, and you're going to be going through the same exact process. So if you're right clicking an item like this one right now, this item right here, this AV item, just has 3 associated parts to go along with them. And then all you have to do is just search for the part and then just drag them over. If you ever need to hide any of the parts, so like let's say, moving forward, you don't want to have any of these parts carry over, you just go ahead and select the hide part item. That'll then just hide the part moving forward. Okay, awesome. That was a lot. So any questions so far on any of the parts editor, which is just your uh, kind of just your interface to manage your part inventory for both WeSuite and for accounting, anything along those lines? Okay, beautiful. And if anything comes up, guys, just go ahead and type it right into the chat. I'd be more than happy to answer it. Lastly, I'm not going to go into this too much today, but if you are using Site Survey and you do want to map your symbols to your icons, this is where you would go through the symbol mapping tab. It's enough for another webinar altogether. But the symbol mapping for Site Survey is controlled through the Parts Editor tab. So this is if you're interested about learning more about that. Symbol mapping is found broken out here. And I believe actually our next week's webinar is on Quote Anywhere, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be talking about that then. Okay. So kind of transitioning over to part import. So part import has a couple different functionalities. So the main functionality of part import is, like it says, to import your parts. Part import can be done via an Excel file. So if you're using like a CSV, XLS, anything from that kind of point of view, all of those formats are supported. So in this case, you have to go ahead and click on New. You're going to find your file. So I just really quickly, before our call, just thrown together a part template. So with this, if you're unfamiliar with how this works, our part template has a couple different columns. So we have up top, contract. So if you're utilizing pricing contracts, these will all be listed out below. So we have the pricing contracts module broken out for our demo environment. And we also have open market. So open market is, think of that as your wide blanket of parts. They don't belong to a contract. They don't belong to a pricing contract. They're just your full parts list inventory. Your contracts, typically, if you're not familiar with it, these are generally done for, government agencies, jobs that require specific pricing and special pricing. So you'll see here we have ones for like Amtrak, uh, state or governments, things along those lines. But if you're not looking to do that and you're not using the module, then you're just going to want to stay in the open market. Add column. What this basically does is this gives you the ability to add an additional column to your Excel sheet. So by doing this, we'll have just column 10. So basically you have the ability to basically build and extend onto your Excel sheet. Then we also have fill column, not to be confused with Phil Collins. Make that joke every time I do this webinar. I have to stop. You'll have the ability to fill the column with certain data. So for this case, we have the ability to map information and pre-populate information on an Excel sheet. Scrolling down here, so these little drop downs, these could be a little confusing at first, but all of these drop downs, these are all options that you can select and have on your Excel sheet. And each one of these do a different thing. They're broken out by this little line at the bottom. And what this line does is this is your labor divide. So if you're loading in parts, you can assign hours, like we just showed before in the editor's interface. You can assign labor, the category, as well as the amount of hours to be associated with that part. Above that, these are all of the columns that you can import to your Excel sheet. So we have a category, color, a cut sheet, if you want to do that, a description, discontinue, a discount percentage, uh, manufacturer, list price, model number, and kind of anything as granular as like a weight or a term, unit cost, sell price. So these are all the categories that could be bound. And what's nice about this is you'll see discontinue as one of the options here. If you want to do a an overhaul of your parts, like if you, let's say you want to go into your system and you want to do, maybe like a mass sweep or a cleanup of your parts or your interface, as long as you have an Excel sheet, you can add this discontinue column and you can have it discontinue parts. So I saw a question come in. Uh, would this be just uploading actual parts that aren't already in, or can we manipulate pricing in this part of WeSuite? So you could do, that's a great question, April. So for, you could do both. So as long as you have a like an accurate list. So what this will do is you have either in addition to add on, or you have the ability to manipulate pricing. So one of the things I was going to talk about in a little bit right here is you'll see at the very top we have options, and under options we have add only and update only. What these two things will do is that'll actually change the functionality of how you're importing your parts list. So if you have, let's say you have a parts list of, you're uploading maybe like 200 parts. Let's just keep it as a, like a kind of generic number. Of those 200 parts, you have some that are pre-existing, some that are brand new. What you can do is you can say, this, I want the system to basically go through this sheet, look for these parts by model number and manufacturer, and only add ones that don't exist. Or you could do the inverse. You could say, I want you to go through this spreadsheet and only update ones that currently exist. Don't add the new ones. So you can make changes and you can manipulate pricing if you want to, just by toggling on one of these two options. It really just depends on what you're doing. So in your case, April, you would want to go ahead and make sure you select update only. So you have a parts list, and you say you have your list of parts of everything kind of broken out by price. You can say update only. The system will then look for the model and the manufacturer, and it'll then do a clean sweep through your system, finding all of those parts and updating, the cost or sell, however you want to do it, that way. And that's typically speaking what a lot of our users will do to manage their parts database for like a discontinue. And that was kind of what I was trying to allude to before, is that you could have a full list of 1,000 parts, whatever it may be. You could just add that discontinue column and just do a mass sweep. Let's say you uploaded your parts years ago, but you're not selling to certain manufacturers anymore. You can go ahead and just do a discontinue on that and just eliminate, kind of trim down your parts list, so to speak, from that. So hopefully that helps. So the next question is, can we export our current parts to Excel, make changes, and then import? So we get that question a lot. So there's no way to do it within the system. However, if you reach out to myself or to support, it's a simple query that we can export it from your database. I think they are working on adding that in the future. But for right now, it's a super easy thing. You can either just shoot me an email or submit a support ticket to say, hey, can we export our parts list? Let us know if there's any columns that you want. Like, let's say if you care only about, description or manufacturer or price, whatever it may be. Let us know if there's any fields you care about. We can go ahead and, yeah, yeah, I know, yeah. So we do get that a lot. So yeah, if you have any, any questions, or if you want to kind of get that list exported out, just give us a call, shoot us an email, let me myself know, or let support know. We can pull that list for you, no problem. And then, well, a lot of the times what our users will do is they'll take that Excel file and just re-import it back in, and make any changes they want to make. So the only thing that's I want to stress about this is that when you're importing a parts list, the important part is that you would want to make sure that these headers match. What I mean by that is, on my Excel file, I have these columns spelled exactly. It's like the headers of the columns are broken out by, like MFGR, like manufacturer, model is your model number, your description is the DSCR is your description, unit cost is your unit cost. I have a whole support article that I'll go ahead and I'll attach to everybody that's attending this webinar today, so you can have a nice little reference key to see what each column means and the kind of the corresponding value of that. But that's the only thing that's important, because if you have like a mismatch here, you'll see some red come over. And the red isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's just saying, hey, we don't have the ability to, something's wrong with the mapping of this column. So most likely, and like 9 times out of 10, what I'll see what users do is they'll spell out manufacturer because they're just trying to put the manufacturer down, and the system will say, whoa, 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 what is this? I don't know what to map this to. And all you would have to do is just go ahead and click on the drop down and select MFGR. If you want to save the clicks, these are just the required fields that you would need. You need manufacturer, model, a description, a unit cost, a cell. Quantity is totally optional. You don't need to have quantity. But these first 5 are the ones that are required. So if you want to make a note of that, and then also in that Excel, in that support doc that I'm going to send over, it has a template that you can go off of if you want to. But these first 5 are just the requirements. Just another question come in. Sorry, I have a question. Users do not have the ability to export from the GUI. Uh, so if users don't have the ability to, Miguel, let me know because it could be a grid write. So if you're seeing, like, if you're going into tools and you're not seeing, editors, parts editors, things along those lines, or they're grayed out and you can't see them, then most likely it's just a group write that we would just need to give you guys access to. So let me know if you can send in a screenshot of what you're seeing if you're getting like a if you're seeing it's grayed out or if you're getting like an error message or anything along those lines, send in a screenshot of that, Miguel. We can go ahead and take a look. But I'm willing to bet you that it's just a permissions thing. A lot of the times, what people will do from an admin level is they'll restrict who can import and who can export and things along those lines, just because they want to make sure that we're not just having things. Not everybody's not just going to kind of push everything in. The ability to export, if you're talking about that from a job level, is also a group write as well. So if you're not able to export from a job, that's also a group write that's controlled. But yeah, Miguel, if you want to send over a screenshot to myself or to support, let us know. We can go ahead and take a look for you if you have anything further with that. Okay, awesome, guys. So just kind of carrying through this while those questions come in, what we'll go ahead and we'll do is we'll just go ahead and just continue to map some of these columns out. So what we'll do is we'll just ignore quantity for right now. And then for this, we'll go ahead and select some labor that we want to export in. So for this value, as we saw, we exported in, we added in that little column there. And all of these categories now just turned with that little red font. That's basically telling you, hey guys, like we can't move forward with this. You have to go ahead and correct the issue. So in this case, we're adding in install hours. And as we're adding it in, you're going to see that the lines are going to change from red to black. The black text that means everything is good to go. And there's no issues with the line item. So to continue back to April's point before, the only other thing to know here is that if we want to go ahead and import these items, if we want to only add or update, then we would go ahead and select one of these 2 options. So we would be able to either say, we want to add these, again, just as a quick refresher, because this is important, add only, we'll look at the system and say, what model number, what manufacturer does not exist currently? If that doesn't exist, then those parts will be added. Update only is the inverse. Update only will say which of these parts does exist and which parts don't. Ignore the parts that don't exist, only affect the ones that do. So it's an inverse functionality that it allows you to have that flexibility if you want to. Or at a baseline, if we just want to say we have 3 parts here that we just want to load in without any issues, let's just go ahead and click on import. Something to also note before I do that is on the bottom right, bottom left corner, you'll see that it has no errors found, 3 rows ready for import. This is a nice little indicator if you're doing a bulk import. Let's say you're doing an import of 250 parts or whatever it may be. This will tell you if there's any errors along the line. So if you're doing a bulk with 3 parts, it's very easy to see what's in black and what's in red. But with 250 parts, you're going to be scrolling a little bit. This little interface on the bottom will tell you, just out of all your parts that are listed, how many have an error. In this case, no errors have been found. The rows are ready to import. Click the import to begin. So we're going to go ahead and click on this import button. It's going to say import completed successfully. and then click on OK. And the next time you access a job, those parts will be listed out. So let's go ahead and just go into a quote right now with little Glenn's Gardens. And we added a WeSuite part. So we'll type in WeSuite part. And these are the three parts that we just added. So we see just, I mean, these are very test specific, and I apologize for that. But you'll see part 4, part 5, part 6 all loaded in with the date they were loaded in, with the costs and then the description to go along with it. Yeah, absolutely. So this is the Excel sheet that I used, Daria. That's a great question. So this is what I use as a template. Uh, so if you want to take a screenshot of this, feel free to. This quantity isn't a mappable field. I was actually using that for something different, so I'll go ahead and delete that. Uh, but these are the 5 required fields that you would need to have. So again, the important thing to stress for this is this first row right here. That's the most important part. If you want to cut back on just kind of any sort of like mapping time and things along those lines, just make sure that you're getting the exact kind of way this is spelled and broken out perfect. If this is spelled out perfectly, like MFGR as manufacturer, model as model, DSCR as description, and so on and so forth, that will cause your import to have 0 issues, 0 lag time, and it'll be an immediate basically import, immediate process. So I'll leave that open for a sec here if you want to take a look. And again, as I had shown, there's like about 20 different columns you can map it to, but I like to keep these things simple and concise. A lot of the times, those other columns might not apply to you, or those are coming and you go as you go type of things. And again, as those parts are loaded in, they will also be listed out in your parts editor. So if you want to go back to your edit, you want to search for WeSuite parts, those 3 parts we just added in are now listed here. So you can now make these changes if you want to, and going through, your manufacturer, your model number, unit cost, unit sell, and so on and so forth. So again, don't feel the need to get everything right the first time. If some things happen, things get missed, you always have the ability to go back to it and make any changes you want to in our parts editor. Okay. Any questions on that, guys? That is a lot to kind of take in, but any questions on the part import process? Okay, awesome. And as they come in, guys, feel free to stop me at any point. I'd be more than happy to answer anything else. So in addition to that, now some fun stuff. We do have several different integrations to go along with your uh, your part import. So we do support EDI, we do support Blackleaf integration, and we do support PSA, and among some others as well. But those are the 3 that I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm going to go ahead and just close out of these guys here. So we can start with PSA is the quickest one that I can talk to because there's really not too much from a system side to talk about here. So PSA, if you're utilizing PSA and you're a PSA member, we do have the ability to integrate with them and load in PSA parts. So let me go ahead and just see if I bring up camera again because I believe we have some PSA parts. Beautiful. So PSA parts will have this little red flag next to them with a black border. So if you're utilizing PSA, it is a fairly simple integration. From a system standpoint, an everyday user, you'll have nothing really to do, which is the best kind of integration. The only thing that you'll know is that you'll look for this little red flag with a black border icon, and it'll tell you when the last time was updated with. So in the demo environment, this is going to be kind of a bad example because there's going to be some parts on here that probably haven't been loaded in for years. Maybe they're discontinued. Maybe it's kind of their names changed or whatever it may be. But you'll see when the last time it was updated on the far right side. With PSA, we build this out on your server side level. So it's specific to you guys. What we would need from PSA is your PSA ID, your PSA customer name. So like if you're name is WeSuite. Sometimes, PSA will call you WeSuite LLC or whatever it may be. And we would need kind of unique information that's tied to you. Once we have that information, we basically do everything on the back end side of things. And then what happens is we create a sync that happens, and it's a live sync. So what it does is every morning we program it to run, and it'll run for a couple hours. So I just built this out for one of our other customers, and the way I built it out for them was I had it run once every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. The run itself, depending on how many parts you have, the particular client had about 230,000 PSA parts, so they were on the relatively big side. But their process runs for 3 hours. So when I set it up, what I do is I have it run off peak in the morning, so that when you turn on your computer and you're ready to quote and make jobs and all that good stuff, everything's loaded for you. And it's all done, and you have the latest pricing as of that same day. So if you're interested in the PSA integration and you're a PSA member, let us know. Let either myself know or your account manager know. We can go ahead and get you set up with the PSA integration. From an everyday user side of things, there's nothing else really to see. You're just going into the quote, looking for a PSA part, clicking and dragging it in, and that's it. So an everyday user has no real change for them. All they're going to be doing is they just have to be trained to look for that little flag with the black border background. From an IT standpoint, we're just going to go ahead and have to manage it from the back end. But it's super easy, super simple process. When I ran with our last client, it took me less than about an hour to set everything up. So about 45 minutes to set up the integration from start to finish, and then we run the initial sync. So that's PSA. So again, not intensive at all. Really quick, really sleek, really easy. It's just more back end intensive than everyday front loaded, which is probably the best for you guys as an admin and as an everyday user. The next we have is Blackleaf. So Blackleaf, if you're not familiar with Blackleaf, Blackleaf is a company that we integrate with. Blackleaf, what they do is they work with a bunch of manufacturers, and they have a live stream of pricing from them. So what's good about Blackleaf is if you're using pricing contracts, your pricing contracts will be listed out here. You're able to load specific pricing contracts into Blackleaf and also have those prices come over to WeSuite. So in this case, very similar to our parts import, we have all of our pricing contracts listed out, and then we also have open market. So what we could do is we go ahead and select open market and then click on load. And what that'll do is it'll give us a full list of all of our Blackleaf parts with all of their up-to-date pricing and every an up-to-date cost sell, their category, subcategory, all that good stuff. So Blackleaf gives you a very similar to accounting parts, I would say. Blackleaf functions as a real-time sync with the manufacturer. So Blackleaf it's a nice complement, I would say. With Blackleaf, they support a ton of manufacturers. I don't have the exact list right offhand, but they're adding more manufacturers by the day, and they are also a company that we integrate with very, very well. So if you want to learn more about Blackleaf, same process. Let me know. Shoot me an email. Let your account manager know. We can go ahead and get you set up with them. With Blackleaf, the only thing that you need to know is that it functions as a real-time sync. Every user has a unique API address as well as API key and password, things along those lines. That's unique to every customer. Once you have that information, we can plug it in for you. And it's as simple as you'll then see this little Blackleaf Connect button pop up. And then when you go into a job, much like PSA, you're going to then find this little and I'm just realizing now this is actually a black leaf. Oh my god, I've been working here for 6 years, and I thought I thought that was a meteor with like a orange background. No, it's actually a black leaf. That makes a lot more sense. So you're gonna wow, I'm actually taking it back right now. So you drag the black leaf part over to the job itself, and it'll allow you to then have that part listed within the job itself. So again, much like PSA, you'll have the only thing to look out for It's just a different icon to go along here with the black leaf icon, not meteor. The thing that you saw when I dragged this part over was something to do with threshold. Uh, Threshold is a user right, so most likely this part exceeds a GPM threshold. So every user, if you're not familiar, without going on a tangent, uh, has you can set a maximum cell, a maximum and a minimum of cell, a maximum and minimum of GP, and a maximum and minimum of overall like price and margin and whatever it may be. So that message you saw that kind of flashed was just the system's way of saying, hey, this part exceeds your GPM, and it wouldn't allow me to bring it over. Okay, so that's Blackleaf. Lastly, the only other thing to note here, guys, is EDI. So EDI is one of our newer integrations. Something to know about EDI is a couple different things here. So to start, EDI, if you're interested in setting that up, if you have an EDI account, it's as simple as going into your catalog pricing interface. Again, this is a module, so if you're not seeing this turned on in your system, most likely it would just need to be turned on for you guys. You're going to see here that we have information like EDI customer number, a suffix, API key, secret key, things along those lines, and other specific fields. We're also able to limit, and these are all encrypted, by the way. So what you're seeing right here is not like our specific information. So just for security purposes, this is all encrypted on the back end. So this is not going to be your actual password, your secret key. This is all just kind of encrypted jargon just to keep it safe. Listed out here, we have some nice little perks with ADI. We have the ability to only update lower pricing. So if you are, using ADI and you're updating your latest pricing, but you only wanted to update if the price was lower, you could turn it to true or false. So let's say, 9 times out of 10, you're selling a customer a part. If the part decreased since you last quoted, you might not want to update that. But if the price increased to a higher value, you can have it automatically catch that and update it to the latest pricing at a higher value. So it's a nice little feature here that helps from a sales perspective, where it gives you a nice little fail safe with that. So once you have that information plugged in, ADI functions a couple different things to note. So with ADI, your part number has to match within Sedona Office. It's not a separate parts list or a separate parts interface or whatever it may be. ADI is controlled by a couple different fields. So first and foremost, once you have ADI set up, you're going to want to go to Tools, System Configuration. And ADI works slightly different. You're going to want to search for your user. So we'll search for good old Johnny Cash. And we'll click on the Edit button. And we're going to look here for licensing. And you're going to want to make sure that this ADI pricing catalog button is toggled on. If that's toggled on, you're now good to go. So for this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and go back to your dashboard. And we'll go ahead and open up our test code one more time. And from this, let's go ahead and search for some ADI parts. So I had two offhand. Let me just make sure I get the right on the first try. 326 LG. Okay. Add that in. Then we'll just add one more. Okay, so we get that same message. Okay. I'm gonna change that really quick. Let's try this other part here. Let's make sure this is the same concept. 5, 3, 6, 5, 3, 6. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so with that, we have those parts listed out. From this perspective, the only other thing to do is to right click, select all. Then there's latest pricing. In this drop down, we're going to now see ADI. So with this, something to also note is that with latest pricing supports 4 categories. So it's accounting, EDI, PSA, and WeSuite. So with all 4 of these, if you're utilizing a job, let's say this job I had created, I think maybe like last week, maybe a couple days ago, if any pricing were to change, you'll have the ability to select the vendor that you want to select it from. It'll then pull from that pricing. So we can select ADI. We have the ability to change it. So like, let's say we only want to do lower cost items only, or not, or include items on discount. And what the system will do, the system will scan through all of your parts and it'll then update with any pricing that was, older. With this, something that's really cool, and this is something that's new on the later builds, I think on 6.9, or maybe 6.8 as well. Let me go ahead and just add this really quickly so you can see it. Sorry for a little bit of detour here, guys, but within this, so we have the ability to actually show vendor now, which is fantastic. Not a lot of people know about this, but if you go into your grid rights, and you're looking for equipment, you're going to want to find vendor, which is right over here. And you're going to see here we have vendor ID and vendor to allow edit. Once that's toggled on, you can go back to our quote. And we're going to want to find our vendor ID, which interesting, why am I not seeing it? Give me one second, guys. Let me just see if maybe some weird stuff was hidden or not. Let me try one more thing really quickly. Regardless, what vendor ID would do is vendor ID would give you a column that would then show the vendor. So it'll show you whether a part is PSA, whether a part is accounting, whether a part is ADI, whether a part is WeSuite. So that vendor isn't necessarily the manufacturer, but that vendor is the source of where the part is from. Let me just try one more thing here, guys, because maybe it's turned off by a group, right? Global grid rights. Let's just see equipment. And let's just find vendor ID. Aha. Turned off by a global grid right. Okay. You take me out of support, but you can't take the support out of me. That's for sure. Always looking for things. So let me go ahead and just expand this out. I think this might be a little. Wait, no, where'd it go? I just saw it. Interesting. Oh, here it is. Just boy. Let's go ahead and just expand this out just a little bit. So with vendor, we have this item here, and this column will tell us that all these parts are PSA parts. So this will give you the ability to then have the visibility of where the vendor is coming from. So in this case, our vendor for these 3 parts are PSA. So the next time we were to update the pricing, we can, right click, select all, update pricing. We know now that all of our parts are PSA. So we can select PSA, click on OK, and it'll then give us, we're getting that margin threshold error, but that's fine. I have to change that afterwards. But that'll basically give us the ability to then update pricing to that vendor. So that is kind of the long-winded breakdown of how to import parts, how to manage your database, but then also some of the integrations that we have to offer as well. So just as a quick recap, we have the import, we have our 3 pricing integrations, PSA, we have our Blackleaf, and we have our ADI. And all 3 of those just require some setup, just some varying different degrees. which can easily be configured behind the scenes. Just let us know if you're interested in any of those. And also, anybody that's attending the call, if you need any help with managing your parts database and your interface, let us know. Be more than happy to help in any way that we can. We know that it's very daunting the first time if you've never set it up before, or if you need the help. A lot of the times, you just need some kind of just nice little advice to be on the call, or like a little additional set of eyes. So if you need help with that, don't be shy. Go ahead and just reach out to myself, anybody on the support team, your account manager. A ton of clients have done it as well. So if you need help, let us know. Also, question that was asked before to export parts. If you want to export any of your parts lists, let us know. Shoot me a message, shoot support a message, whether it's a ticket or an email, whatever it is, and we can go ahead and just get that for you. Just let us know exactly, what you're looking for. Uh, Specifically, if you're looking for a specific manufacturer, your whole list, a specific amount of columns, whatever it may be. So if there's no further questions, guys, I really do appreciate everybody's time here. Dario, I saw your question come in. Any Wesco integrations? Not that I know of, Dario. I'll ask our development team. There are things that are coming down the pipeline with integrations, and we're always adding new ones, but not that I know of. But I'll double check for you just so I can see and make a note of that. But if no other questions, guys, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. It was a ton to kind of show you guys, so I appreciate all of your patience. We'll go ahead and turn it over to Brandon now, who's going to go ahead and give us a wrap up. Let us know what's coming down the pipeline. So, Brandon, take it away.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and hopefully you are comfortable with everything we reviewed. If you need to refer to this webinar again, it'll be posted on our website by the same time tomorrow at wesuite.com/webinars. Also under the training webinars tab, which is under the education header. Next Tuesday, March 19th, is our user webinar covering WeEstimate's estimating basics at more of a 101 level. Take care and have a great day, everyone.